Good afternoon, children. I'm Dr. Bhavna Mahajan from GP Pant Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research. That is just in the same campus building next to you, your college, and we are sister departments. So today I will be taking your lecture on amino acid chemistry. In next 4 to 5 lectures, we'll be covering amino acid and protein chemistry, but today we will be talking about amino acid chemistry and amino acid structures. So before I move to the amino acids, I would like you to know about proteins. What are proteins and how they are associated with amino acids? Proteins are the most versatile macromolecules in the living system, and they play a very crucial function in essentially all the biological processes. They function as catalysts, transport and store molecules like oxygen. They give mechanical support, they give immunity to the body, they generate movements, they help in transmission of the nerve impulses, and they control growth and differentiation. So now I have told you about proteins, but how are proteins linked to amino acids? Proteins are the linear polymers of which are built by the monomeric units called amino acids. The different amino acids, they combine with each other in a linear order, and this structure then undergoes further modification and forms a protein. So apart from helping in formation of proteins, the amino acids have certain other functions also. They are the constituents of heme, creatine, purine, pyrimidine, neurotransmitters, and certain hormones like thyroid hormone. Also, proteins help in formation of certain peptides which are biologically important. Peptides are the molecules, they are shorter than proteins. Again, amino acids are linked and they form peptides up to 2 to 50, if 2 to 50 amino acids are linked together, we don't call it a protein, we call it a peptide, which is smaller protein. So glutathione, oxytocin, vasopressin, ADH, TRH, and antibiotics like gramicidine, they are the peptides. The amino acids, they lead to some diseases if their metabolism is impaired, like diseases like phenylketonuria, homocystinuria, albinism, pheochromocytoma, and carcinoid syndrome. And details of this you will be studying when you study the metabolism of amino acids in further classes. Now, before going further, I will explain about the structure of amino acids. As you can see, this is a central molecule of carbon to which a carboxyl group is attached, COOH, an amino group is attached, NH2, a hydrogen group is attached, and another group R. This R can vary. This can be one hydrogen, methyl group, ethyl group, hydroxy, methyl, hydroxyethyl, any group. So this R will vary in all amino acids. Rest 3 molecules will be the same. So this is the basic structure of amino acid. And almost 300 amino acids occur in nature, but out of that only 20 are present in the human bodies. 20, we call it 20, but precisely it is 21, which I will be discussing the 21st amino acid also. So there are 20 L-alpha amino acids. Now what is L and what is alpha amino acid? I will tell you in further slides. All amino acids have an amino group, a carboxyl group, a hydrogen and R group attached to the alpha carbon. Now what is alpha carbon? Again, I will tell you further slides. If you see this structure of amino acid, this is a central carbon, it is attached to a carboxyl group, an NH2 group, hydrogen group, and R group. And if you see this structure in a 3-dimensional form, the mirror image of this, when it is oriented in 3 dimension, you can see this NH2 group is lying on the left side, so this is L amino acid, and in its mirror image NH2 group is on the right side, it is called D amino acid. This structure is similar to the glyceraldehyde, L-glyceraldehyde, which is our basic structure when we compare all the structures, stereoisomers, to L-glyceraldehyde. This again you will study in detail when you study the structure of chemistry of carbohydrates. Now all amino acids have a chiral carbon except glycine. Now what is chiral carbon? Chiral carbon means the carbon atom, this central carbon atom, it is attached to 4 different groups. It has 4 valencies, so it is attached to 4 different groups. So it is chiral, but the exception is glycine, because in glycine this R group is H. So we will have 2 H attached to 1 carbon. So this will not be chiral anymore. It will be, this chiral carbon is also called as asymmetric carbon. Alpha carbon of amino acid is chiral, that is 4 different substituents. Its glycine is exception, I have already told you. Optically active amino acids are either dextrorotatory or levorotatory. This is another term, small d and small l. In the previous slide we have seen capital D and capital L, which are due to the orientation of amino group towards right or left, and this is due to the asymmetric carbon in amino acid. But small d and small l are optically active, either dextrorotatory or levorotatory. Dextro is when plane polarized light, which is passed through the solution of optically active solution of amino acid, is rotated towards right, it will be dextrorotatory. If it is rotated towards left, it is levorotatory. The D amino acids are produced only in bacteria. They are not present in the human bodies, and humans cannot synthesize or use D amino acids because we do not have the enzymes which can act on D amino acids. So I hope till now you have understood that the proteins are repertoire of 20 amino acids, and only L amino acids are the constituents of proteins, and there are different side chains of which are attached to the this carbon, central carbon, which is called alpha carbon. Alpha because the carbon which is attached to the carboxyl group is first carbon, that is called alpha carbon. Next carbons will be beta or gamma. So this is the alpha carbon. इससे attached जो भी आपके R group हैं, which can vary in size, shape, charge, hydrogen bonding capacity, hydrophobic nature, chemical reactivity. They are all in different in different amino acids. Also another thing which I want to introduce right now is that amino acids, if they are present in solution at neutral pH, they occur as dipolar ion, which is called as Zwitter ion. Dipolar means it will have 2 charges. NH2 will become NH3 plus, so it will have a positive charge. Carboxyl group will be deprotonated and will be COO minus, and the net charge will be 0. Again, we will talk about this property in detail in further slides. These are certain amino acids which structure slowly you will understand. I will not waste time on this. How do we classify amino acids? We classify amino acids in 4 different ways, depending upon their structure, their polarity, and their nutritional requirement, and also their metabolic fate. Depending upon their structure, the nature of R group, they can be aliphatic, that is the R group is aliphatic chain, which can be a hydrogen, a methyl group, isomethyl group, ethyl group. 5 such amino acids are there: glycine, alanine, valine, leucine and isoleucine. They can be aromatic, where they have a benzene ring attached to it, a ring structure. Then they have they are 3 aromatic amino acids: phenylalanine, tyrosine and tryptophan. OH containing amino acids, where the R group has another OH group attached to it: serine and threonine. Acidic, aspartic acid and glutamic acid. Acidic में these are dicarboxylic acids. They have additional carboxyl group attached to their side chain. And similar, their amides, asparagine and glutamine, basic amino acids which have an extra amino group, sulfur containing amino acids which have extra sulfur group attached to their side chain, and cyclic which are proline. They are exactly not amino, we call them imino group rather than amino group, because the NH2 group forms a bond. It is not free, this proline. Based on the polarity, they can be polar or non-polar. Non-polar are the hydrophobic ones, hydrophobic which go away from the water. Okay, so they will cluster together deep into the interior of the protein, and this way they stabilize the structure of the protein. Polar amino acids are their hydrophilic side chains, and they are polar charged or polar uncharged. The non-polar, initially we see the polar, non-polar, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, proline, and the aromatic ones, phenylalanine, tryptophan, methionine, they are polar. Then, sorry, they are non-polar. Polar are glycine, serine, threonine, cysteine, tyrosine, asparagine, and glutamine, and they are polar uncharged, and polar charged negatively charged हो सकते हैं या positively charged हो सकते हैं. तो negatively charged are aspartic acid and glutamic acid because they have an extra carboxylate group, so they are negatively charged. The basic ones, which have an extra amino group, they are the positively charged, like glycine, arginine, and histidine. They can be classified on the basis of their nutritional requirement. We call them as essential, non-essential, or semi-essential. But remember, all are functionally essential. But nutritionally, some are essential, some are semi-essential, some are non-essential. Essential means that they are not synthesized in our body, and we have to procure it from the diet. So they are nutritionally essential. There are 8 such essential amino acids: isoleucine, leucine, threonine, tryptophan, lysine, phenylalanine, valine, and methionine. Non-essential are the ones which are adequately synthesized in our body and they need not be taken from the diet. And semi-essential are the ones which are inadequately synthesized in our body and they are partially fulfilling the needs of the daily requirement, but in the growth phases like during lactation, pregnancy, growing children, the requirements are increased and the body cannot meet the demand. So they need to be taken in the diet. So they are semi-essential. Then based on their metabolic fate, they can be ketogenic, glucogenic, and both ketogenic, glucogenic. Ketogenic are the ones which produce the end product which help in formation of ketone bodies. Glucogenic are the ones which produce the end products which help in formation of glucose. So they are glucogenic, and both ketogenic and glucogenic which produce the intermediates which can produce both. So leucine and lysine are the purely ketogenic amino acids, and isoleucine, phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan are both, and rest are all glucogenic. Further, I'll tell you certain or more amino acids, the modified amino acids. They are amino acids present in the protein, but they are modified. Like proline and proline and lysine, they are incorporated into collagen protein, and then they are hydroxylated and they form hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine. Similarly, there are certain amino acids which are amino acids but they are not present in proteins, like ornithine, citrulline, homocysteine. They are free state intermediates of metabolic pathways. And there are some non-alpha amino acids. Some amino acids are typically not alpha amino acids, but they are amino acids because they contain amino group and a carboxyl group. The NH2 group is not attached to the alpha carbon but to some other carbon, like in gamma aminobutyric acid, in which the amino group is attached to the gamma carbon, and in beta alanine the amino group is attached to the beta carbon. Then we have selenocysteine, which is called as the 21st amino acid, and it is found in the proteins in addition to the earlier belief that only 20 amino acids exist. Structurally, it is a cysteine where the sulfur is replaced by selenium, and it is found in peroxidases and reductases, especially the enzymes. All the amino acids, they have specific symbols and which indicate the sequence of amino acid. When we write it in protein, they indicate the sequence of amino acids. There are certain properties of amino acids. They are polar. They can be the solubility. They, as I told you, they are hydrophilic and hydrophobic. The polar, non-polar, we've already seen. So accordingly, they will be soluble in the polar solution or in the non-polar solvent. They absorb light at 280 nanometers. Like aromatic amino acids, they show absorption at 280 nanometers. Tryptophan has the maximum absorbance, and this property is used for the detection of the proteins. Then another property is the optical activity, which we have already discussed, that the small l, this is wrongly written, small l amino acids rotate the plane polarized light towards left, and the humans cannot synthesize capital D amino acids. So these are the small d and capital D and L amino acids. They are the isomers. Then amino acids are amphoteric. This is a new term which I am introducing. Amphoteric means that it can act as an acid as well as a base. It can donate a proton, it can accept a proton. Now now comes another property called as isoelectric pH and Zwitter-ion. You see, each amino acid has at least two ionizable groups, that is an NH3 plus group and a COOH group, which they have different pKs. Now what is pK? Amphoteric property of amino acid is due to their ionizable alpha amino and alpha carboxyl group, and this depends upon the pH of their medium. Either they will give which molecule will accept the proton or give the proton, and this all depends upon the pH of that medium. Now each amino acid has two ionizable groups, NH3 plus and COOH. At physiological pH, that is at 7.4, COOH is ionized as its pK value is 2.4, and at 2.4 it will exist as COO minus. Okay, so it will be negatively charged. It will carry one negative charge. At 7.4 pH, when we change the pH to 7.4, the NH2 group will be fully protonated or undissociated, and it will be positively charged, that is NH3 plus. So at physiological pH, what is happening? COOH is existing as COO minus and NH2 is existing as NH3 plus. So the net charge is 0, and this type of molecule is called Zwitter-ion. Okay, so you have to remember that when the pK is 2.4, that means the molecule will release, accept the proton, and as the pH will be increased at 7.4, COOH will release its proton and it will exist as a negatively charged molecule, and at that same pH the NH3 plus will be protonated and the net charge of the amino acid will be 0, and this is called as Zwitter-ion. Now what is the importance of pI? Isoelectric pH is the pH at which the amino acid exists in the Zwitter-ion form, and this is called isoelectric pH. So, and the Zwitter-ion is called as Z-ion. It has the least solubility and it can precipitate at pI. At pI, the Z form ion can act as buffer. At pI, the Z ions will not move in the electric field. They cannot be separated by the electrophoresis. Electrophoresis is the technique where we give we give charge to the medium, and the ions, they move towards anode or cathode. But in pI, the ions are negatively, they don't have any charge, their net charge is 0, so they do not move in the electrophoresis. And how do we find out pI? pI is measured by finding the mean of the ionizable groups, and the pI of a simple monoxalic acid like alanine की अगर हम बात करें, तो this will be usually midway between the two pK values. pK1 is pK of COOH group and pK2 is the pK of NH2 group. मतलब COOH when is it becoming ionized, and when is NH2 becoming, at what pH NH2 is becoming ionized, and we take the average of the two pKs and we find the Pi. At that Pi pH, the net charge of that molecule will be 0. How to understand, say this is an amino acids, and when the pH is acidic, in the acidic environment, all the groups are protonated and the molecule has net charge of +1. As you increase the pH, you add base, and at somewhere around pK equal to 2, it will release its COH will start releasing the proton, and at one pH, at one particular point, this whole COH will be protonated and all these carboxyl groups will be present in the COO minus form. And at the same time, the NH2 group is present in the NH plus form. So the net charge of this molecule at this pH is 0. As you increase the pH of the medium, the NH2 group will be deprotonated because more of base is being added, so it will be deprotonated and NH2 will lose its proton, and the net charge of this molecule is now the negative charge which is carried by the carboxyl group, and it is minus. So this happens at 9, pH 9, when all the amino groups are protonated. So average of 2 plus 9 is 5.5, so isoelectric pH of this amino acid will be 5.5. As I have explained in this thing, pK1 plus pK2 divided by 2 will give you the Pi, which is midway of the, as you keep on adding base, this changes, pH changes, and you get the Pi. This is the titration curve of aspartic acid, and in this you see it has aspartic acid is an amino acid which has more dissociable groups other than alpha amino acid. It has extra gamma carboxyl group. COH group is extra, so here it will be slightly different. Total in all it will have 3 dissociable groups. One is alpha amino group, one is alpha carboxyl group, and the other is gamma carboxyl group. So all will have different pKs, and Pi will be calculated by the average of the two pKs which are on the either side of the pH at which the net charge was 0. Not all three, you will not take the average of all the three pKs. Only the Pi, for calculation of Pi, we take the average of pK values on either side of the Z form. So firstly, when if the solution of aspartic acid is made strong acid, then all the groups will be protonated, and aspartic acid will have net charge will be +1. Then when you start adding base, the carboxyl, this alpha carboxyl group will start losing its proton, and the net charge it will become minus. So net charge will be 0. As you increase the pH more, the other carboxyl will now lose the proton, and the net charge will be minus or 2 minus of carboxyl and 1 plus of amino. So the net charge will be -1. When you add more base, the amino group will be deprotonated now, and the net charge will be -2. And for the calculation of Pi, the average pK value of the Z form will be on the either side of pK of either side of this thing. So pK1 and pK2 का average लेने से we will get the Pi. So now what are the chemical reactions of amino acids? All the amino acids, they undergo several chemical reactions by the virtue of the different groups which they have. So the different groups which they are carrying are the amino group, carboxyl group, and R group. So chemical properties due to the carboxyl group first, if I talk, they form the salt because they are acid, so they will form salt with alkalis. Amide formation, they form amide with ammonia. Carboxyl group will attach to the ammonia and form amide group. Amino group, amine formation, the carbon dioxide will be released and NH2 will be added, so amine will be formed like histamine, tyramine, and GABA. Then further the reactions due to the amino group. First is the reaction with ninhydrin. Ninhydrin is a reagent chemical which reacts with the alpha amino group of free amino acids or the N terminal of the proteins and to form the purple color complex, that is called the Reumann complex. And this is very sensitive test to use to detect the formation presence of free amino group. It is only to detect alpha amino group, free amino group. Then other reactions are due to the R group like methylation, that or transmethylation. Methionine is most importantly used in this. It is the active form of acid-inosine methionine. It donates methyl group in several reactions. Phosphorylation, the serine and threonine and tyrosine also. They have OH group. So that OH group undergoes phosphorylation, and this property is used in the phosphorylation, dephosphorylation several enzymes. It helps in the regulation of enzyme activity. Tyrosine ka OH group is phosphorylated by tyrosine kinase. And then disulfide bonding. The SH group of cysteine is used mainly for SH group of cysteine, not methionine. Methionine is used for methylation. SH group of cysteine is the one which is making the disulfide bonds, and insulin is one specific example for this, where both interchain and intrachain disulfide bonds are present. It is important for the structure maintenance and activity of insulin. There are certain color reactions of amino acids like biuret, which is to detect two peptide linkages, ninhydrin reaction for alpha amino acids, xanthoprotoic for benzene ring, Millens for phenolic group of tyrosine, Hopkins-Bowles for indole group of tryptophan, Sakaguchi reaction for guanidino group of arginine, nitroprusside reaction and sulfur test for sulfur group of cysteine, and Pauli's test. So these are the colored reactions which different amino acids give, and we use them in our laboratory to test the presence of amino acids. Now, when two or more amino acids are joined together by a bond, that bond is called peptide bond. Amino acids are connected head to tail. I told you that proteins are polymers, linear polymers of amino acids. Now, how is these amino acids attached to each other? Not that they come and just connect to each other. They form a bond with each other, and then that bond joins them, and the resultant compound is called a peptide. A peptide consists of more than 10 amino acids, is a polypeptide, and the constituents of amino acids of a peptide or a protein are called amino acid residues. Peptide can be dipeptide, tripeptide, tetrapeptide. Peptide I will be talking in detail in further slides. So when this COH group, this R and H I have not shown in this figure because they are common. Only we are involved with this is the NH2 and COH of all the amino acids for formation of peptide bond, which is I have shown in this figure. So COOH and NH2 of the COOH of first amino acid and NH2 of this next amino acid, they combine, water is released, dehydration occurs, and CO and NH combine to form this red is the peptide bond. Now what are the features of this peptide bond? It has a partial double bond character. It is shorter than a single bond, therefore it is rigid, but it is longer than double bond. So it is partial double bond character. It is rigid and planar, and also it has a double bond character also because it prevents the free rotation around the bond between the carbonyl and the nitrogen of the peptide bond. And The peptide bond is usually a trans bond, because trans means that the R groups are on the opposite sides of the peptide bond, because otherwise there will be steric hindrance if it is in the cis position or on the same side. Like uh, uh, one say methyl group of one amino acid is attached to say phenyl group, phenylalanine. So it has a benzene ring, big benzene ring. So there will be steric hindrance. But if both the R groups are on the opposite sides, the structure will be more stabilized. These carbonyl and NH group of the peptide bond are polar and are involved in the hydrogen bonds, but they are uncharged. That is, they cannot give or accept protons. Again, you can see in this figure, this is the asymmetric or chiral carbon to which to which different groups are attached, and this is the COOH group which is attaching with the NH group, and a peptide bond is formed. Peptide is the short string of amino acid, typically comprising of 2 to 50 amino acids. Peptides may be easier for the body to absorb than proteins because they are smaller and they are more broken down than proteins. They may be dipeptide, tripeptide, tetrapeptide, etc., depending upon the number of amino acid residues it has. And it is not dependent on the number of peptide bonds. For example, glutathione is a tripeptide. Tripeptide means 2 peptide bonds with 3 amino acid residues. Fine. So you should keep this in mind, that when we call it dipeptide, tripeptide, it is not the number of the peptide bonds, it is number of the amino acid residues. Structure of the peptide is written starting from N terminal on the left, continuing to the right. Now, what is the biologically important peptide? Generally, the term peptide is applied when number of amino acid is less than 10. Up to 50, we call it peptide. Some examples of biologically important peptides are glutathione, thyrotropin releasing hormone, that is TRH, oxytocin. Glutathione is a peptide made up of 3 amino acids. So TRH is made up of 3 amino acids again. Oxytocin has 9 amino acids. Gastrin has 10. And bradykinin has bradykinin has 9 amino acids. They are all either hormones or like glutathione is helping in as antioxidant. TRH, which is a tripeptide, it is released from hypothalamus and stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce TSH. Oxytocin is produced by posterior pituitary to stimulate the uterine contraction. Vasopressin is produced by posterior pituitary and acts as antidiuretic hormone. And gastrin is produced by the gastric mucosa and stimulates the axial secretion. Bradykinin is anti-inflammatory peptide. So they are biologically important peptides. Talking about glutathione in little detail, it is a tripeptide. Chemically, it is gamma glutamyl cystinyl glycine, and the gamma, you have to note it in this, that the gamma carboxyl group of glutamic acid is the one which forms a peptide bond with cysteine rather than the alpha carboxyl group. So its chemical name is gamma glutamyl cystinyl glycine. And the SH group of the cysteine residues takes part in the antioxidant function of glutathione. It gives protons for reduction of H2O2 into water. So also it helps in the maintenance of the normal structure of RBC membrane and keeps the hemoglobin in the ferrous state. So these are the peptides, something we have talked about peptides. And also you need to remember that so till now we have discussed about amino acids. I have told that amino acids are the monomeric building units of peptides and proteins and are important biomolecules. They have many critical functions. They give rise to various important molecules, compounds like heme, creatine, purine, neurotransmitters, And then there are important peptides. When amino acids start combining with each other, they form peptide. And then we have some important peptides like glutathione, vasopressin, oxytocin, and some ADH, वगैरह. And then when these amino acids combine, more amino acids combine, then they form full proteins. Bigger molecules are called proteins. So, and then we have discussed the structure of amino acid. They exist in D and L form. L form is the one which is present in the human bodies. The alpha amino acid, we call it as alpha amino acid. Alpha carbon is the carbon which is attached next to the carboxyl group, and all 4 different groups are attached to the alpha carbon. And R group is the one which varies in all amino acids. Rest 3 molecules are same in all amino acids. Then we have seen the classification of amino acids based upon the nature of their R groups and their polarity and their acidic or basic nature, and other types of classification like on the basis of their nutritional requirement, ketogenic or glucogenic or metabolic fate. And then we studied about the main property of that being amphoteric compounds. That is, they are dipolar, they have positive and a negative charge, and this charge thing depends upon what? It depends upon the pH of the solution. And we have again today we have learned about another molecule which is called as the zwitterine. Zwitterine is the molecule where the net charge is 0, and this isoelectric pH is the pH at which the zwitterine exists, and the pI of simple monocarboxylic acid, that is, it has one NH2 group and one COH group. That uska pI will be exactly midway between the 2 pK values. Okay? pK values are what? pK values are the pH at which first COH will be ionized, and pK2 will be the value at which the NH group will ionize. COOH group will ionize, that is, it will become negatively charged, it will release its proton, and NH2 group will accept proton and will become positively charged. So this is how the ionization will occur at different pH. That also I have explained. And as you will increase the, if you have an acidic solution and you start increasing the pH, as the pH will start increasing, the ionizable groups, first COOH will start losing the proton, and as the solution will become more acidic, then amino group will release its proton and change the pH of the solution. So I think today we have covered the basic structure of amino acid, and we have also learned about the zwitterine, and I think that's all for today. And in the next class we will be studying more about the peptide bond and its properties, and more about the protein structure. So thank you for today. Let's see you tomorrow.